Hi, my name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to a continuation of the Jeshua channelings by Pamela Kribbe. For those of you who are joining me or following along with me in the book, I am on page 77. This is From Ego to Heart 2, Exploring Inner Wounds. We distinguished four steps in the transformation from ego based to heart based consciousness. Number one, being unsatisfied by what ego based consciousness has to offer you, longing for, quote, something else, which is the beginning of the end. Number two, becoming aware of your ties to ego based consciousness, recognizing and releasing emotions and thoughts that go with it. This is the middle of the end. This is when, for me, I equate this to my realization that everything I've ever really been taught is only either a partial truth or isn't at all correct. It's a matter of programming and conditioning, right? And that's what I feel like that's referring to there. This is considered the middle of the end. Uh, Number two is becoming aware of your ties to ego based consciousness, recognizing and releasing the emotions and thoughts that go with it. And again, for me, that also meant seeing myself, right? Seeing all the trauma that I've that goes along with the installation of programming and conditioning. For me, anyway, that's what I recognized. Number three, letting the old ego based energies inside you die, throwing off the cocoon, becoming your new self, the end of the end. This is where I kind of feel like I am. I can see that most of the programming now. Now it's a matter of catching it and eradicating it because some of it is just so deeply ingrained that it's habit. That has to do with the self-talk for me mostly. Um, However, it's the same thing to me. Number four, the awakening of a heart-based consciousness within you, motivated by love and freedom, helping others make the transition, helping others making the transition. In this chapter, we will discuss step two. When you stop identifying yourself with the ego, you first get into a state of confusion as to who you are. This is true. This confusion can be profound and very philosophical in nature. You get to ask questions about the meaning of life, about good and bad, about what you really feel and think, as opposed to what others have taught you to feel and think. And that is what I refer to as that programming and conditioning. These questions are suddenly very real to you, and they have a direct bearing on the life choices you make. You look at yourself and you think, is this me? Is this what I want? It is hard to make choices now since nothing is self evident anymore. Again, that's when, like for me, realizing that nothing at all I've ever been told, I've just found so much, it seems like to me. In fact, you are now taking a step backwards, a step into the deep, a step inward. You become aware of deeper parts of yourself, parts that are less conditioned by your upbringing and by society. You receive glimpses of who you truly are, your uniqueness, your individuality. And this is what I actually, I adore this, and I am so open and happy to help others. I point you to you. It's also very unique and different, and There are a lot of absolutely now there's lots of ways to do it where if you have the money to do things like visit an astrologer, a human design reader, various and sundry other different things, as long as they're pointing you to you. These are all things that you can learn about yourself freely. And if you have any questions about how to do that, just let me know. I do offer folks uh, PDF copies of things that they can get for themselves freely, only because I know how to get it. And I do that in exchange for love offerings, true. But I'm telling you right now, you can do it for yourself. You just Google, you find the place, you ask for the free reading, they give it to you, then you go on Google and you start asking questions. What does this mean? What does that mean? And you just learn about yourself. And you know, there's several things, several ways I have of doing that I found for myself that I'm happy to share with you. You remember that there is a part of you that is not dependent upon anything around you, your parents, your work, your relationships, not even your body. This is when you vaguely sense your divinity, the part of you that is completely unbound and eternal. In fact, you are all multidimensional beings. You can and do manifest yourselves in several different realities at the same time. And I have had glimpses of this, and I think other people have as well. And some people actually that have been classified as mentally ill, I think they just not understanding what's happening, but sharing it. I don't know. That's what I feel like. I feel like there, at least there are some cases that are like that. You are not bound to a linear time frame. That's a mistake we all make, I think. Your current personality is only one aspect of of the multidimensional entity that you are. Whenever you realize that your current expression is a physical human being, is simply one whenever you realize that your current expression as a physical human being is simply one aspect of you, you go beyond it and you can get in touch with the greater self that you are. And I do feel like that is absolutely true. I, I every connection to the higher portion of you it looks and feels different for each being. No one can tell you what it looks like for you because it's different. But before you get there, you need to heal the wounded parts within you. Living according to the dictates and demands of the ego has created psychological wounds within you. Letting go of ego based consciousness initially creates confusion, doubt, and disorientation. After this first step, you enter a new stage. It is the stage of observing, understanding and healing your inner wounds. That's what I call puzzle piece collecting, actually. Just things that highlight. I'm not going to prejudge things. I'm just going to hold on to it because I know there's something there. There's something in that statement that just is in the inside, peaked or highlighted something for me. So we will speak of this stage now. With the ego in control, your actions and thoughts have been based on fear for a long time. In a sense, you have ruthlessly pursued your desire for power, recognition, and control. In this, you have belied your own nature. Your behavior has been based on outer standards instead of your own true needs. Also, you have not been able to really love someone else. since love is completely opposite to the need to control or dominate. And a lot of people, when you say those words, they don't see themselves as that. But even when we say we are disappointed because that being over there isn't doing what we think would be the right thing for them, that's still control. A desire to control their outcome because we think we know the better outcome for them. Because, hey, it worked for me, or at least this is how I've seen it for myself. This whole state of consciousness formed an attack on the integrity of your soul. The soul suffered under the reign of the ego. When you disentangle yourself from the grip and the hold of the ego, this inner pain gets more visible to you. It is exposed to you, naked and raw, bereft of masks. You do not, however, know how to deal with this pain yet, since you are still in a state of confusion and disorientation. More often than not, you go through a stage of judging your inner wounds. Oh gosh, yes, that's so true. Because they seem to lead you to negative patterns of behavior, addiction, depression, uncontrollable mood swings, problems with communication, difficulties with intimate relationships. This judgment of yourself inflicts more pain on the soul, which has just begun to turn toward the light. The soul is letting go of the need for power and control. It is growing more sensitive. And then it gets caught up in self-judgment. Many people are wandering in this no man's land between the ego and the heart. They are searching for a more loving reality, but they are still within the reach of the ego's whip. That's kind of what it feels like for me sometimes. In fact, it is not your inner hurt that makes you fall prey to what you consider, quote, negative traits in yourself. It is your judgment of the hurt that causes this negativity. If you look at yourself with an attitude of acceptance, you do not see an addicted or depressed or failing persona. You just see inner pain that needs to be tended and cared for in the gentlest and kindest way possible. The most important step in stage 2 of the transition from ego to heart is that you are willing to understand your inner pain, accept it, understand its origins, and allow it to be. This is what I call feeling it all the way through. If you can perceive the core of fear that is inherent in all expressions of ego-centered consciousness, you have entered the reality of heart-based consciousness. This is what I mean when I've said on the channel or in conversation in regards to those that we would classify as evil. I see a bunch of scared beings who have bought into a programmed, conditioned belief system that's very similar in how it was installed in those beings, and yet completely different from the conditioning and programming that's been installed in most. And now I'm speaking on the evil elite that most think of when you think of, all the corruption and whatnot on the planet, right? All the, yeah. So I'm going to read that again. If you can perceive the core of fear that is inherent In all expressions of ego-centered consciousness, you have entered the reality of heart-based consciousness. However reprehensible someone's behavior is, if you recognize the pain, the loneliness, and the need for self-protection beneath, you get in touch with the soul displaying the negative behavior, which is the case even in the case of those that we would consider or label the most evil. As soon as, that's me saying that, not the book, as soon as you perceive the soul in fear, you are able to forgive. This applies first and foremost with regard to yourself, which is so true. I'm the hardest on myself, and I know that's true. Because we cannot give to another what we cannot give to ourselves, by the way. I mean, I'm sorry if you think you can, but you can't. Take something in yourself that you truly detest, something that really annoys you, that you think you should have gotten rid of long ago. It may be insecurity or laziness or impatience or an addiction, anything you feel should not be there. Now, try to understand the real motive behind this trait or tendency. Yeah, because I do still have things that, like not having a motivation to, exercise properly. uh, and I still don't understand what that motive is. What compels you to feel or do this thing over and over? Can you perceive an element of fear within your motivation? Well, the only fear I can think of for myself where exercise is concerned is, hey, I fear maybe I might actually live through all of this. I hope that's not so. You just never know, I guess. Well, yes, there's part of me that keeps saying that it keeps feeling that there's some sort of transformation that is that I'm meant to experience in some sort of a I don't know, I keep being shown a public fashion of some sort. I don't know. It has something to do with my healing myself in some sort of way. I don't know. I really don't know what that has to do specifically. Um, hmm. Do you notice that as soon as you realize there is fear, you grow mellow inside, feeling something like, oh gosh, I didn't know you were so afraid. I will help you. There is tolerance in your attitude now. There is love and forgiveness. Yes, there is. There's still a sense of judgment upon myself, and that's a long standing programmed condition from having been so overweight all my life, right? From the time I'm a little kid until 1999 at the peak weight of 490 pounds. So, yeah, that feels like a holdover. Boy, that's something I got to dig into. As long as you judge fear based behavior such as aggression, addiction, subservience, vanity, etc., as bad or sinful or dumb, you are judging. But judging itself is a fear based activity. Have you noticed that when you judge, you grow harsh inside? Something tightens, like lips pressing to each other and eyes growing cold. Why do we need to judge things? What is this urge to narrow things down to right and wrong? I think I've figured that out for myself. It has to do with the learning process and how the programming and conditioning is installed. How as as things come at the consciousness there's a, at least for me, I recall that you have to, it comes into a filter that then has to be perceived. This is how the development of perception, that's what it keeps feeling like to me, right? And then, of course, part of the conditioning is to adjudge things right or wrong. Well, any parent will tell you that a 2 year old is learning right from wrong, what is acceptable in the household and what is not acceptable in the household feels right and wrong to a developing personality, right? A developing ego, because that's what that is, a developing ego. Wow. Okay. So I'm sorry that went a whole new place. I'm going to go back to the book. Why do we need to judge things? What is this urge to narrow things down to right and wrong? What is the fear beneath our need to judge? I think it's straight from the 2 year old reaching out to grab something that, or do something they know they're not allowed to do, right? Or learning it for the first time, perhaps. It is a fear of facing our own inner darkness. It is essentially a fear of living. Yeah, there's something to that. I know no one wants anybody, especially an infant or a baby, a 2 year old, to get hurt, right? But I can see where, I mean, I can see it in my own head, right? Smacking my little 2 year old's hand because I don't want him to hurt himself by doing something that is a no or whatever, right? Instead of, I don't know, ex- trying to be a little more clear about it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, and let them figure it out for themselves. I don't know. There's something to that for me as I try to work this out, because I was certainly not a conscious parent at all. And I see a lot of the programming that I installed in my 40-year-old. Okay. I see it. I see it everywhere I turn. So back to the book. In letting go of ego-based consciousness, you will want to develop a whole new way of looking at things. And this is true. I really do look at things completely differently than I ever did in my life before. This way of looking may be best described as neutral, meaning that it just takes note of what is and has no interest in how things should be. Yeah, because what I have learned is that that takes a lot of assumption. I have to assume that things are a particular way that I think they are. And I've learned enough now about this programming and conditioning business to see that nothing is as it seems. Not one thing in this reality is exactly what it presents itself as. It is that and more that I can't see, that I don't know about. Yeah. So this way of looking may be best described as neutral puzzle piece collecting, actually, meaning that it just takes note of what is and has no interest in how things, quote, should be. The causes and effects of ego-based behavior are observed. The core of fear within is recognized, and so the ego truly becomes transparent to you. Whatever is transparent to you, you can let go of if you want to. Every human being knows fear. Every one of you knows the darkness and loneliness of being caught in fear. When fear is shown openly in the face of a child, most people react instantaneously by reaching out their hands. But when fear is shown indirectly through masks of violence and brutality, it seems unforgivable. The more destructive and cruel the behavior is, the more difficult it is to perceive the fear and desolation behind it. Yes, because all you can see is the evil that presents itself. But this is what I now know to be true for myself. Still, you are able to do so. From the depths of your own experience of fear and desolation, you can get in touch with the deep fear in the souls of murderers, rapists, and criminals. Should you allow yourself to? Most people don't. They just think, I've actually heard it said, oh, people know right from wrong. And I challenge that. I really do. I challenge that. Because if you've been programmed and conditioned in a particular sort of way that was totally outside of the way that I was programmed and conditioned, it's absolutely possible, plausible, and potential that they think they're doing the right thing because of the way they were raised, which was completely foreign to what I had coming up. Mhm. That's why I think they try to destroy the traditional family values thing because um, then there's no way for you to see that there's a different comparison as to how it's less easy, I think. I don't know. There's something behind that there's something there about that. Back to the book. It is possible for you to understand their actions. And if you do so based on your own intimate experience with darkness, you can let go of it. You can let it be without the need to judge any of it. If you truly understand fear as a power that is, and that you are thoroughly acquainted with through your living experiences, you can let go of judging. I mean, I know I have. I still tend to discern how I wish things to be for me because I have to set boundaries for the way I want to experience my life, but I don't have to judge that. Because I have no way of knowing what contracts, sacred contracts that those beings are fulfilling for other beings who are wrapping up their experiences of victimhood and persecutor. I have no way of knowing a lot of things. So there's no point in my judging things, right? I have a lot of assumptions on board. I think if everybody could realize that's what we're doing is taking assumptions as gospel, when I just don't think that's the thing to do, man. Fear is neither good nor bad. Fear is and has a certain role to play. In ways that are very hard to express in human concepts, fear is a blessing as well as a torture. In any case, the choice to allow fear in your reality was not made for you. You were the gods, so to speak, who allowed fear to play a constitutive role in your reality. You did so not to torture yourselves, but to create. To create a reality that has more substance, more fullness to it than a world society based on love. I realize this may sound unbelievable, but perhaps you can intuitively grasp what I'm trying to say here. Fear is a viable part of creation. Where fear is, love is not. Where love is not, love can be found in new and unpredictable ways. A whole range of emotions can be explored, even created by the absence of love. The absence of love can be felt in a variety of ways. The presence of love can only be felt against the background of fear. Otherwise, it would be all pervading and you would not notice it as such. This is what I've said before. It spoke earlier along in the book about how we actually, the birth of the soul, we ripped ourselves away from all nothing but love and bliss because that had become stagnant to the soul wishing to experience more, grow more. And there's nothing wrong with that. And yet we adjudge all of what we're going through here. So, by creating fear, by catapulting yourself outside the ocean of love that surrounded you, you allowed yourself to experience love for the first time. Do you understand? You did not create love, but you created the experience of love. You needed an opposite, something other than love to do this, and you used fear as an instrument. We, on the other side of the veil, can clearly see the spiritual role that fear plays in your reality. Therefore, we plead with you again and again not to judge. Please do not judge fear and the darkness it brings, either in yourselves or in any other being. You are all created from love, and to love you shall return. When you enter stage 2 of the transformation process from ego to heart, you are confronted with your inner heart, your fear, and you are invited to look at it with understanding and acceptance. After becoming aware of your inner heart, your inner hurt and fear, you may go through a period of self-judgment at first in which you may display destructive behavior. It may seem that you are going backwards instead of forwards. At that point, you are in the danger zone, the no man's land between ego and heart. You know you want to get rid of the old, but you cannot yet really embrace the new, so you get caught up in self-doubt and self-judgment. Turning point is when you stop judging yourself, at least for a while. I just reached that stop judging, and I still catch myself in judgment of myself. That's a toughie, man. That's a toughie because I don't even know how to say how tough that is. You know what I mean? It's just so especially when one is starting to question everything, and really ask the questions of self. But it's getting easier all the time. It is only when you are prepared to look at yourself with an attitude of interest and openness. Like, yeah, what do we got going on in there? Who are we really? I mean, really, not the facade that we're trying to put on for everybody else, but who is Sheila? What do we got going on in here? You know? Openness that you enter it is only when you are prepared to look at yourself with an attitude of interest and openness that you enter the reality of heart-based consciousness. Before that, you are merely comparing yourself to an artificial standard or ideal that most of the time you fall short of. Yep, we all hold ourselves up to somebody. Because, that's all we have is the examples that are set before us, the examples of our parents, the examples of our teachers. Everybody thinks if you're taught something that It's mostly the examples that we see that we follow in the footsteps of. It's monkey see, monkey do most of the time. I mean, it just really, at least that's what it feels like to me at this point in my life at 63. That's what it looks like. You beat yourself up for this, and then you try again to force yourself into the mold that you created for yourself in your head. No, I am so guilty of that. This kind of perfectionism, I tell you, is a murderous weapon. Yes, I know that's true. It is quite the opposite of love. Love truly does not compare, and more importantly, it never wants to force you into anything or change you in any way. Love has no eye for what, quote, should be. The very category of should is absent from the consciousness of the heart. Seen from the heart, moral categories are simply ways of interpreting or, quote, dividing up reality. They are ideas in your head, and as you know, they may differ greatly from head to head. Now, this is what I have said many times. Morality is very subjective. And it has only to do with your experiences that you've had growing up and how you were programmed and conditioned and what traumas may have formed through those programmed conditions. And, the variations of traumas that have been experienced as one goes along is what forms the moral code of beings. And it will absolutely differ from head to head. The very need to to set standards and define the good is the forerunner to human conflict and war. It is not so much the ideas as the underlying need to control and fixate that causes aggression and conflict. Political, personal, or spiritual. This is why it's so important at this point, at this stage. The time that this is being recorded is 2024, just before the presidential election. And that, I'm telling you, is up for it right now. It's up for us all to see. I think a lot of humanity is looking at that specifically. Political, personal, or spiritual ideals, standards of health, beauty, and sanity all provide you with standards of how things should be, of how you should behave. They all try to fixate and define what is good. But love is not interested in defining the good. It is not interested in ideas, but in reality. Love turns to what is real. The heart is interested in all that is, in every expression of you, the destructive and the constructive ones. It simply takes note. It simply is there, encircling you with its presence if you let it. If you open up to the reality of love, the reality of the heart, you let go of judgment. You accept who you are in this moment, at this moment. You realize that you are who you are because of a multitude of reasons which you are now going to investigate and explore. That's what I call my quest now. That is how I look at my life. And the quest is, who am I? And what am I doing here? And what are we learning about this time, right? For myself. When this moment arrives, it is a great blessing for the soul. And maybe that's why it's tied to so much peace. You are now able to heal yourself. Yep, see, you will fall back into self judgment from time to time, but you now have a conscious memory of how love feels. No, that's true. And as soon as you have that, you will return to find it anew, for you have tasted the sweet perfume of home again. In the second stage of the transition from ego to heart, you get into closer contact with yourself. You are taking a closer look at your baggage from the past. You are reliving painful memories again, memories from this life, perhaps memories from past lives. And that happens too, especially in my case. I feel like it's because of all the fat cells that I still have in differing areas of my body as they release um, and begin to be fleshed out. Sometimes I have these very interesting and yet not quite. I mean, they feel a bit familiar and it feels like me, but it's not me. Might have to do a dream space about that. Yeah. So I'm going to read that again. You are reliving painful memories again. Memories from this life, perhaps memories from past lives. The psychological baggage you carry from all your lifetimes up to the present make up your current identity. And because we each chose the family line into which we incarnate, there's something about the cellular DNA experience that comes along with that. For me, that's what I was referring to in regards to my experiences with reliving memories, painful memories from past lives, what I think of as past lives. You may look upon this baggage as a suitcase full of clothes. You have played many roles in the past, assumed many identities, just like pieces of garment. You so strongly believed in some roles that you came to look upon them as part of your identity. This is me. You think of such roles or clothes. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. When you truly investigate what these roles have to do with you, however, you will find out that you are not them. You are not the psychological roles or identities you assume. You are not your clothes. You have used these roles from a soul felt need for experience. The soul takes delight in all experiences because they are part of the learning process the soul committed itself to. I keep being shown this, so I'm going to stop this here and share it just because I keep being shown it. For me, it feels like, and I got nothing I can point to say that this is so or anything like this, but the way my higher portion of myself keeps showing me in the multidimensionality of the truth of who I am. Well, now it's gone. Isn't that interesting? It came in. The soul takes delight in all experiences because they are part of the learning process. That wasn't where it came in. Oh, that you are not them. That's what it is. Psychological roles or identities you assume. I don't know. It came in and then it left. So apparently it's not for y'all. Ah, I'm sorry. When you take a closer look at your own roles or identities, you soon notice there have been painful, even traumatic experiences in your past which still, quote, stick to you. You seem unable to let go of them. They have become like a, quote, second skin instead of a mere garment. Those are the difficult elements in your past, the pieces that now keep you from truly living and enjoying life. You have identified so much with these parts that you think you are them. Because of this, you feel that you are a victim, and you draw a negative conclusion from this about life. But these conclusions do not hold for life as such. They just hold for the traumatized parts in your soul consciousness. That makes perfect sense. If the belief systems is the filter through which we create, doesn't that make um, so much sense? It is these parts that need healing now. You do so by entering the past again, but with a consciousness that is more loving and wise than you ever had before. Yeah, the just the very fact that I'm aware that that I have had, that we've all had this programming and conditioning, and it's completely different for each unique portion of the all that is. It's made my life so much easier, simple, more peaceful. I'm so not as hard on myself as I ever was before. And it's just in a completely different way, a completely new, more loving perspective for certain, on not just myself, but the entirety of what I survey. Well, again, I'm just being reminded now there with my words, and can't give away what I don't have for me. Uh, in the second stage of the transformation process from ego to heart, you heal episodes from the past by encircling them with your present consciousness. Yes. Through re experiencing them in the present from a heart centered focus, you will let go of the traumatic parts in your past. Trauma occurs when you experience a great loss or pain or evil and you cannot understand why it happens. This is why I have said specifically, I have witnessed now the moment of trauma as a programmed condition that seems innocent in nature was installed in a child. I watched it happen. I was not that child's parent. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything because it was a perfectly what everyone would think was an innocent, and I could see it. I could see it. And it's it's so nuanced and it's so fine, right? Because most children don't understand why that's not right. And so it's so interesting just to have have that information, that knowing now, that validation of, oh my God, that's exactly how all of us got programmed into every single thing we actually believe. Uh, is just so you have all experienced trauma in many of your lives. In fact, the soul's consciousness during the ego stage is traumatized from the outset. There is the loss of oneness or home that it remembers and does not understand. When you go back to the original traumatic event through imagination and you encircle it with the consciousness of the heart, you are changing your original response to the event. Now, I've had many conversations with my housemate, Lisa Flamino Rush, and with Crystal J. Hemphill, and we've talked about how they both have experienced themselves returning to a younger version of themselves and holding them, and then them both realizing later they actually have a memory, but they didn't know it was themselves. I don't know how to explain that. You'll have to, I mean, we'll have to see about bringing that up sometime in another conscious conversation. But so this is another validation for me right here. You change it from horror and disbelief to simply taking note of what happens. In the regression, you simply take note of what happened. And this very act creates room for understanding, room for a spiritual understanding of what actually took place in this event. This is why another reason, it's another validation for me about how everything is actually happening all at once. And it is only our physical vessel narrowing our perceptions down to an infinitesimal thing that actually affords this the feeling of time, linear time. It does not actually exist. We are all one and all separate, all at the same time. It's to me, that's what I keep being shown. When this room is present, you are becoming master of your reality again. You are now able to come to an acceptance of the whole episode, since you understand from the heart that there is meaning and purpose to everything that happens. You can sense from the heart that there is an element of free choice present in everything that occurs. And so you grow towards an acceptance of your own responsibility for the event. When you accept your own responsibility, you are free to move on. And that is so true. That's why I say it can be really painful. And a lot of people don't want to look at it. But boy, it is so freeing. I'm on the other side, man. It is only when you relate to your own past identities as actors do their roles, it is only when you relate to your own past identities as actors do to their roles that you are free to go wherever you want. You are then free to enter heart based consciousness. You no longer hold on to any aspect of what you have been in the past, victim or aggressor, male or female, black or white, poor or rich. When you can be playful about the aspects of duality and simply use them whenever it brings you joy and creativity, you have grasped the meaning of life on earth. You will, and this is where I feel like we're all getting ready for the next game, which where we know that we are creators, that we are all one and yet singular. And then the real fun can begin. That's what I'm looking for. You will experience great happiness and a sort of homecoming. Yes. This is because you are getting in touch with the consciousness underlying your different roles and identities. You touch base with your own divine consciousness again, the realization that everything is one. In short, the reality of love. We will close this chapter by giving you two meditations which may help you get in touch with the stream of oneness, that stream of divine consciousness that is the undercurrent of all of your experiences. Oh, okay. So, mm, get yourself comfortable if you so choose. And I will turn on my BQH voice. Let's take some deep breaths in and out. And I really, it's kind of difficult to actually do a meditative voice, but I will when I really don't know what's in the meditation because I haven't read this in a while. So it says meditation one, and really these are more. I think they're more like questions. So just breathe sort of deeply and ask yourself these questions and see what you get. Which psychological characteristics that you consider very much a part of you cause the most problems in your life? Name two such characteristics. Boy, that's a yeah. I would call this an exercise more than a meditation. Focus on the opposites of those characteristics. So if you picked impatience or insecurity, now focus on their counterparts, patience and self-confidence. Feel the energy of these characteristics for a moment. Go within and look for these energies inside of you. Name three examples from your own life in which you displayed these positive characteristics. Now that you are in touch with these positive characteristics, let their energy flow through you and feel how they balance you. Yeah, that's more of an exercise than a meditation for me, anyway. So, this is meditation two. It says, relax and let your imagination travel back to a moment in which you felt very happy. Take the first thing that enters your mind. Feel the happiness again. Now go to a moment in which you felt extremely unhappy. Feel the essence of what you felt back then. Capture what is common to both experiences. Feel what is the same in both moments. Yeah, these are exercises more than I feel like, anyway. Both meditations are meant to make you aware of the underlying consciousness, the ever present you-ness in all of your experiences. This ever present vessel of consciousness, the carrier of your experiences, is the divine, you. It is your entrance to a reality beyond duality, the reality of the heart. Oh, I really like the way that was put just there, the carrier of your experiences. I always but I feel like it's focused and or distorted by the ego that has been programmed and conditioned with misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. Let's, to use a common phrase from today. Well, that's the end of From Ego to Heart 2. And I am going to be recording Ego to Heart 3 today as well. And I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope you are enjoying it. If you have not already subscribed to this channel, I would love it if you do so. I am convinced that if we move towards that which highlights for us, that which brings us joy, there is always something there for us. And it's the wherever we're peaked, for me, wherever I'm drawn, good or bad, there's something there for me. And since I now look at my life as a quest, um, that's my motto. So I hope that you will move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. Until we meet again, my friends, be well. Till next time.